Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing today? We're going live now. Trailblazing families and trailblazing families to be. I have a wonderful guest today. I have Janelle Schroy, who's an awesome world schooling mom. We haven't met in person yet. I feel like I kind of know you though.
Yeah, I feel like we've been around each other for a couple of years now.
Yeah, totally. But we haven't met in person. I hope we can change that someday. So everyone, this is Janelle. She's awesome. And I attended a workshop that she held the other day because she's really good at online learning apps for her kids and online learning and schools and all that kind of stuff. So I learned a lot. And she knows so much about the amazing opportunities available online. I mean, I was commenting to another world schooling mom that just 5 years ago, there was like a fraction of what's available now. We're so lucky to be in 2023 to have so much to learn online, just, at our fingertips, on iPads, on phones, whatever. So yeah, thank you for coming, Janelle. How are you today?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
And now you are in Egypt today. I like your screensaver. I'm not in Bali. That's my screen.
I was wondering where that was. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's Bali. I've been on this trek. I've been on this little hike. I like, it kind of made me feel like when I named my program Trailblazing Families, like this walk, this hike reminded me of what we do, basically. So yeah, so how long have you been in Egypt?
So we are here for the entire month. So we've been here 3 weeks now. And then end of next week, we'll head off to South Africa. So we were in Morocco for a month in January, and this month it's Egypt, and next month, South Africa.
Awesome. Now you lived in South Africa for a while. So tell us about that, because you're from the US.
Yes. So home base is Hawaii, but we are Americans, and we lived in South Africa for 10 years where our 4 daughters were born. And so that was kind of the beginning of our world schooling journey. And then we were back in the States in San Diego, California, just for a year while we were working on a company that we started. And then we took off traveling. So we are fully world schooling for about 4 years now, if you don't count a decade in South Africa.
Yeah, that's true. How old are your 4 beautiful girls?
Yeah, so our oldest is 12, and then we've got a 10-year-old, 8-year-old, and 6-year-old, all girls, no boys.
Okay. Awesome. I have 2 girls myself, so you've got double what I have.
Yes.
You must be really busy. Okay, so what motivated you guys to take the plunge into world schooling, other than, after being basically an expat, I guess, in South Africa, right? What motivated you guys?
Well, when we were living in South Africa, there wasn't a whole lot of options for us for schooling our kids because we were on temporary residence permits, but we weren't actually, we hadn't immigrated to South Africa. And so because of that, we were limited. We had our first daughter in private school, in a private Jewish school, for 2 years, just because that was the only place that would take us on our visa status. And it was a great experience, but then we quickly realized that the grind, if you will, of the normal ebb and flow of school and getting up every morning and doing all the things and keeping up with homework and extramurals and things, it just wasn't for us. And I felt I missed my kid, I wanted to be with her. And I felt like there was so much that I was doing with my other kids that she was missing out on because she was in school for 8 hours a day, that I was like, I don't want to go down this track. And then we moved to San Diego, and I looked into the American school system, which I was unfamiliar with as a mom who had all my years up until then as a mom in South Africa. And I didn't like what they were. I didn't like the options. And I felt like the best way that I had always traveled, or I had always learned, my husband and I, was through traveling. And so we were in San Diego for that year. And as we got to the end of our lease, we were trying to figure out, should we start again with our lease? Should we do something else? And we just said, you know what? It's up in 3 weeks. What if we don't renew it? We just get in the car, we sell everything, and we just go. So from the time we made that decision, almost on a whim, 3 weeks later, everything was sold and we were out the door.
Really?
So we never looked. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
What did you drive around the US first, or what did you do?
Yeah, we did, just to kind of get our feeling for what it's like to travel as a family full time. And so we did about 4 months or so traveling around the US. And then we took the leap and went to Europe. And since then, it's been all kinds of different countries where my husband has, I think, 57 countries. I'm at 54, and then my kids are at 33.
That is
So
awesome. That is awesome. And you're trying to get them to around 50, right?
yeah, and we started off with that goal. We said if we could take them to a quarter of the world,
Yeah.
there's approximately 200 countries in the world at any given moment. And so we figure if we see 50, that's a pretty good education, they're going to get a lot. So that was our big plan. And we didn't know there was no time frame on it. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to travel for X amount of years. It was just, that's the goal. So it's taken shorter, like fast travel form, slow travel form during COVID, and so different times, different spaces.
Yeah, I'm close to 50, but we keep going to the same countries over and over again. So I need to
love them so much.
Well, I don't know, just the way it is. And I need to start adding some new countries just to get over that 50 mark.
Yeah.
It would be fun. So you didn't do very much preparation prior to leaving. You just because you'd lived abroad, so you were kind of familiar a little bit with traveling, and that's amazing that you guys were so spontaneous about it.
There was nothing scary about it for us. I mean, after you've lived in South Africa, you can do anything. I mean, it's not an easy country to live in.
Yeah.
And so we know, we have kind of a motto that we just say, we'll figure it out. As we're going along, we'll figure it out. And when something comes up that we think, oh, we need to figure out health insurance or taxes or whatever it is, we'll just figure it out when the time comes. We don't have to have it all done beforehand.
See, I'm such a planner. I like to figure things out before. So you and I are a little bit of opposites because I don't like being stuck. And then it's like, I get anxiety. I'm like, oh, what do I do? So I tend to be a little bit more of a planner, but maybe there's a happy medium between us. I don't know. So you've been to lots of places, I'm guessing 5, 6 continents.
Yeah, so 9 countries in the Americas, then the Caribbean, 10 countries in Asia, 6 in Africa, although 10 years in one of those, 3 in the UK, and then about 20 in Europe. And then lots in the Balkans, and then we've got about 5 or 6 countries in the Middle East.
Do you have any favorites? I know it's hard to ask that question, but
yeah, I love Greece. One of the only countries I could live in the world would be Greece, that I feel like I could do long term. I really love the culture. I love the way people are, the food, the lifestyle, everything. Greece is amazing.
What areas of Greece? The islands or the mainland?
Yeah, right after the pandemic, the first shutdown, when we were stuck in Montenegro, we took the first flight out and went to Greece, and we spent 3 months. Wow. We drove around most of the mainland, and then we went to 6 different, just island hopping to 6 of the different islands. So my husband loves the island Milos. He thinks this is the absolute best. I'm torn because I like them all for different reasons. But yeah, we love Greece. Switzerland is a big favorite. I love the nature in Switzerland. There's so much about it that I love. I don't love the price. It's just an expensive country to be in, but it is definitely a favorite. Brazil, I love the people and the culture and the nature. The danger is hard. Same with South Africa. So yeah, I would say my top 4 would be Switzerland, Greece, South Africa, and Brazil.
Interesting. That's awesome. Okay, so let's get into how your girls learn, because I know you're really big into what do you call it? Education travel? Do you have
educational family travel?
Yeah.
Just kind of a broad term that encompasses all the different styles of education.
So obviously they're learning out in the world,
Yes.
But so talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about the online stuff.
Yeah, I mean, travel is definitely the number one way. I would say 70% of everything that we learn as a family is through travel. It's everything: history, art, music, literature, cultural norms, all the things that you learn just by being and living in another country, whether it's short-term or long-term. As you know, when you are traveling full-time, it's a very different experience than traveling for vacation or holiday. You just, everything is different because you're grocery shopping, you're cooking, you're going to the local events. We've got here in Egypt, we're in Luxor for a couple of weeks, and we met some people outside on our street, women, these Muslim women who are dancing in the street with a DJ and everything, whole bunch of them. And I was here with another world schooling mom having coffee, and we heard them. We went out on the street. They said, come and join us. So then we're all there dancing in the middle of the group. And so then, before we don't know what it's about, what they're partying about. And they said, hey, we're having a henna party for the bride. She's getting married on Wednesday. Come bring the kids, come to the henna party. So that's tomorrow night. We're going to a henna party. And then the next day we're going to the wedding. And it's, it's those local experiences that when you're living in a house in the middle of a community, you get wrapped up in what real life is like in that place.
Totally. You're not in a resort, you're not in a hotel, you're there.
Exactly.
Back in the middle.
So awesome. Travel is number one. I think number two would be, I would say, iPad-based apps, platforms, and websites. So all 4 of my girls have their iPads, and they're spending solid 4 to 5 hours a day on iPads, which for some people who are anti-screen feels like a lot. But the way that, if we get into the way that we're structuring that later on in the conversation, I can talk about how that plays out. Sure. So don't let that sound too scary. And then Kubrio, I know your kids are also involved in Kubrio to some extent. Mine, 3 of the 4 of mine are. And then they do online music and dance classes. So we travel with instruments. All 4 of them have an instrument that they play. We've got a violin, a ukulele. What's that?
Small ones or big ones?
Well, we've got a violin, full-size violin, so that one's not small. And then we've got a Hawaiian ukulele. We've got a little flute, a full-size flute, but it's small when you're carrying it around. And then we have a roll-up silicone piano, which is 88 keys with a pedal and so forth. So those are the instruments we carry. It's very important to me personally, the arts. And so we're not giving that up. That's awesome. And we carry a bag.
You don't travel light.
No, we don't travel. We do not pride ourselves in traveling light. Then our family has a couple of TV shows. So we, as a family, are involved in video production together. I'm the producer. My husband does the video and editing. My kids are we're all on screen, but the kids are more than us. And they're involved in every stage of the process of that. Awesome. And so big learning for us is that production, as well as the people who are involved in the video production locally, wherever we are. So that includes apprenticeships and behind the scenes. So all of that is learning for our family. Then books, tons and tons of books. We have a couple of online reading platforms. The kids are reading books all the time. And then we do a lot of art and nature journaling wherever we are. We always have art supplies with us in our bag. If we're just out in the day, like today, we were at this temple in Luxor, the Karnak temple, and we had, sketchbooks and art supplies, and we're just sitting there painting and drawing and learning and talking and looking up history facts online. So I would say those are the kind of general, I think 10 or so ways or styles that we learn.
Yeah, you're learning all day long.
Yes, absolutely. And together, not just the kids, but me, my husband and I too. I mean, we are constantly in learning mode.
Totally. So tell us some of the apps that you like, and maybe we can start with like I don't know if you can talk about apps for younger kids and then kind of go up to older kids.
Yeah, well, we've got the range of 6 to 12-year-olds, so I don't know anything beyond 12-year-olds and what the teenage community needs quite yet. But the way that we think about learning is not in terms of the traditional subjects like English, math, science, history. We group it a little differently. So I think about learning buckets is what I call them. And so I'm thinking about, what are my kids passionate about? What do we care about as a family? What's important to us? And what skills do I think they're going to need in the future? So from that framework, I then break it down into learning buckets. And then I gather the tools within those learning buckets to help equip them to learn within that. But then within that, they have the freedom to do what they want. So my buckets our buckets are global studies, world languages, STEM, the arts, health and wellness, and entrepreneurship. So when I think about education, those are the sort of big buckets that we work with. And then inside of those are subject matter. So in global studies, we would say history, geography, current events, government, civics, global citizenship, economics, all that fits under global studies. And then with world languages, we're talking about English, which is our native language, and then also all the other languages. So we're always concurrently learning at least 3 languages.
Wow.
So French and Spanish are all the time. We've got English, and then we always have whatever the language is of the place where we are. So right now that's Arabic because we're in Egypt. So that's world languages, and I'll talk about the different apps. And then STEM, I would say science, technology, engineering, and math, as we would think about it. But I would say with math, we would also say money, because we do a lot of talk. As you know, as a traveling fit mom, you're constantly talking to your kids about money, economy, the way that different countries are interacting with money, exchange rates, of course. My kids are whiz at exchanging money and rates because we're traveling to a different country every month. Yeah. The arts. Yeah. So the arts, I would say visual and performing arts. So we do a lot, like I said, with music, but also with opera and dance, tons of visual arts, nature journaling, and we take different courses and classes, and that takes different forms as we go. Then health and wellness, we're talking about physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, nutrition, all that I would say that goes into that health and wellness. And then entrepreneurship, I know you care deeply about as well. So when we're talking about entrepreneurship, I want them to know design thinking, product development, business management, financial literacy and management, and then investing. So that's when I think about education, that's what I'm talking about. And for some people, they would say, that's a lot. But the way that I see it is we're doing those things in a week. We're not doing that every day. And then when I say, okay, we're doing global studies now, the kids on their iPads have all these different tools that they can work with. So they can decide how they want to approach their work within that bucket. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I don't know if you know the tool Kid News, but it's a 5-minute daily news podcast for kids.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's just a podcast. So they just put on their headphones, they listen to the podcast of the day, and it just hits the highlights, and it's all kid friendly stuff. But when we listen to it, then it'll trigger something. They'll go like, oh, I want to learn more about that. And then we go and do the research on it. So we're keeping up with what's happening in the world.
That's great.
And then we do a geography app called Cetera, which is a free one. And it's it's free, and it's all geography maps, flags, different facts about the world. And so wherever we are in the world, we're working on that continent. So the geographic features, the political distinctions, cities, the landmarks, all that's happening on Cetera. And then we also use some printables. My kids like printables because most of their stuff is on iPads. And so we just signed up for something called Teacher File Box, which is you pay one fee, you get access to, I think it's 80,000 printables for an annual year. And it's all up to age 8th grade. So it's from, 2-year-olds until 14-year-olds.
Do you travel to a printer, or do you go to like a print shop?
Yeah, like usually the first night we're in a country, we're in a hotel, just because it's an easy landing pad when we come into the airport, and we stay in a hotel close by. We just kind of get over jet lag, we get ourselves sorted, we repack our bags, we leave half of our bags at the airport, at the hotel with the concierge while we go traveling around the country for a month, and we come back and collect that half of the stuff that we don't need. So that's my time print. So before we arrive in a country, I'll say, okay, Egypt, I go to Teacher File Box, I'll put in Egypt, I'll pull a bunch of stuff for my different kids, I'll make them little fun folders. And then as we're going through the country, whenever they want to do some like paper handwriting sort of work, they're filling in maps and coloring things and designing stuff. And so that's been a really fun, just kind of like tactile hands-on tool.
That's nice because, get off the screen a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Especially, I've got a 6-year-old, so she loves a good coloring sheet or matching. So when we talk about history, we use a tool called Story of the World, which is something that you can download the audio files. And it really is an incredibly comprehensive history of the world, but it's in story form. And it's presented in the most beautifully narrated way. It's a guy called Jim Weiss who does it. And so we've got that downloaded onto all of our devices, and wherever we are in the world, we pull up that one and we listen to it. We were just listening to a portion of that call about the rise of Islam and the stories behind Islam, because we're Christians, we're not familiar with it. And so we want to learn all that because we're here in, in a Muslim country. So that's a big one for history. We also use Brain Pop, which I think a lot of people are familiar with. So many great history tools in that. And then there's a couple of websites and YouTube shows that we use. there's so many tools. I won't go into all of them.
Well, so are some free, are some paid, or there's like a mix of them?
Variety. Yeah, variety. Yeah, we spend a couple $100, maybe about $500 a year in subscriptions, and then we put them on all the devices for our 4 kids. So I feel like it's a pretty good deal.
There's accessing so much.
Yeah, exactly. We use Epic. People might be familiar with Epic. That's an online digital kids reading, the 40,000 books for kids, and you can sort them and filter them in different ways, but it's a beautiful platform. You can look it on your laptop, look at it on your phone or your iPad. And so we create a space every day for kids to just read, and they're able to pursue different passions and interests and topic area that they like. And so we don't travel with any books. One of the advices I would give to new world schooling families is don't travel with books. There's so many great online platforms, Kindle, Epic, Scribed. These are ones that you just pay a fee for, and then you have access to all of this resource. Do you have one that you use? What do you use?
Yeah, we've done the public library and Libby and stuff, and Kindle and stuff. So yeah, we've used a few different things.
Yeah, my kids would read all day if I would let them.
We're more unschoolers versus, I think, than you are, I think.
Yes.
So my daughter reads a lot, but just not like Kindle books so much.
Yes.
Once in a while. I mean, she'll go through she was really into Warrior Cats. I mean, she gets really into these series, and she'll want to read them all, and then she'll not want to read for a while, and then she'll find something else she wants to read. So It's very kind of like eclectic and spontaneous.
Love that. I love that. We're always reading a book together. When I put the kids to bed at night, we'll read out loud for half an hour. Remember, I've got little kids too.
Yeah.
And so we just worked our way through the Chronicles of Narnia. Now we're working on some J.R.R. Tolkien stuff. So The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, which is a little tough for my 6-year-old, but she's tracking in her own way. Yeah. So books are a huge part of, history, science. They cover a lot of biographies. So yes, should I talk about languages, or you want to ask questions?
You mentioned that they're learning French, Spanish, and whatever is in the country you're at. But what apps do you use? Was it Rosetta Stone that you mentioned before to me, or
right? For the little ones, we use Gus on the Go apps. They've got a bunch of apps, and I think they're all $2.99 on the App Store. And they're a really cute, cartoony kind of interest for little ones. So we start with that, and then we move on to Rosetta Stone Homeschool. So we have a lifetime subscription, one subscription on all the devices, and that's I think it's 26 languages, and it's the full curriculum.
Yeah,
and it's all digital. So it's voice dictation. They're getting all of that, and then they dabble with Duolingo, although I don't think it's as robust as I would prefer, but they've gamified it. So the kids love it. They're always, I earned hearts, I earned badges, or whatever it is that they use. So that's more play stuff and practice, but the really core curriculum happens in Rosetta Stone Homeschool.
That's awesome. Wow, Janelle, you're amazing. I wish you would just adopt me. I want you to be my world schooling mom.
Well, thank you. I don't know if my kids would always agree, but we do have fun. We keep it. I mean, sometimes when people hear about all the different tools that we use, they think my kids are just like staring at a screen all day long, looking at this stuff, but that's not how it works. We structure our day in a way that 2 hours a day in the morning, they're doing Kubrio clubs, which I don't know if we want to talk about Kubrio, but they're doing 2 clubs in the morning. Then we're out all day from 10 until 4 o'clock, exploring, visiting different things, doing stuff all together as a family. Then we come back and they do another 2 hours. Then they have a break and we do dinner and showers and, whatever family game or whatever. And then they'll do another 2 hours. So while they're doing 6 hours in a day, it's not 6 hours straight. And it's in those sort of downtime. So while I'm getting ready in the morning and I'm doing laundry and dishes and feeding the breakfast, they're doing their schoolwork, they're on a club. So
when do you and your husband have time to work? When they're doing their online
when they go to bed. So usually and we trade off days as well, but Monday through Thursday is school time for us. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, no school, no iPads. They go in a closet. They don't touch them. And iPads for us are just for schoolwork. That's it. They don't do any playing on their iPad. There's no games. We just feel like they have enough screen time with all these tools and resources that they're using. So
Is there ever a time when they're feeling kind of unmotivated? Like, how do you deal with that? Or are they
so
pretty
far,
good?
so far not. I mean, I can't think of a time where they've said, I don't want to do anything. Like
Okay.
they just want to like rest. I think if they were sick, maybe, but they love it. They really love it. We are an insatiably curious family. So we're constant, like we were sitting today overlooking the Luxor temple after we went to the Karnak temple and we were looking at it and my husband's on, line looking at details of this temple. And he said, you guys, that's the oldest building in the world
Wow.
that has been used it for different religious ceremonies over the longest period of time. And we're just
Mhm.
like, we're eating our French fries, like, wow. And then they're asking questions and we're talking about what did it mean to be an ancient Egyptian? What does it mean for us to be an American? What are some things that come to mind? So we're constantly curious, constantly cultivating, constantly debriefing, not in a way that feels structured necessarily, or like we're not following a curriculum.
Right, right.
We're just traveling and
Yeah.
exploring. And from that, the overflow is curiosity, it's passion, it's interest. And so I don't feel like my kids, I'm trying to think of them ever having a time where they're just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do schoolwork. I'm sure it will come.
Wait till they're
It has,
teenagers.
yeah, I don't have a teenager yet. So
Almost. I
yes.
have two the same age, so I don't know, they gang up on me sometimes. Anyway, no, that's great. I like how you do it. And I like how you have the little buckets, like some themes, some, that at least gives you a little bit of structure, and then the schedule of 2 hours here, 2 hours
Yeah.
there. It makes sense. Yeah. And as long as they're not overwhelmed and that they're having fun and they're learning and they're, remembering this stuff too, and
Yeah.
they're absorbing it. And,
I mean, I definitely have found that we've had to let go of mastery a bit, where we don't feel like they have to know everything and remember everything. We don't do quizzes, we don't do testing. That stuff just doesn't happen because there's so much rich spiral learning that's happening, where we'll study something, like we're using different tools for math, and they don't have to learn everything and master it and take an exam to prove that they know that.
right.
They're being introduced to a concept, and then other things happen in our lives and we come back to that concept and they learn more and they build more and we come back to it again and again and again. So the mastery happens over time and over revisiting it, as opposed to in a traditional school system where it's like, okay, now you need to know all of these things in this unit for math. You've got to pass the test or we can't move on.
Okay, interesting. So you're not doing like the Khan Academy or whatever and kind of trying to get up grade by grade or level by level.
I mean, I would say math would be the only subject that it's like that. I mean, math, you do have to have some building blocks. English, there's certainly things that, you continue to get harder spelling words, harder grammar. I haven't talked about some of those tools, but the different tools that we use do build on each other.
Mhm.
But I'm not concerned about what grade level my kids are in. People often ask me, are you testing them? Are you concerned that they're on level with their peers in
I'm sure
America?
they're advanced.
I don't care. I just don't care.
Yeah.
I see how rich their learning is. I see how much they're learning and remembering. I hear my 6-year-old as she's playing with her little toys and she's got, George Washington talking to Marquis de Lafayette, and Marie Antoinette is in there. And then there's like Julius Caesar. And I'm like, these
Wow.
are the figures in her world, because these are places we're going and the things that
Yeah.
we're talking about as a family.
Wow.
So I don't worry that they're on grade level
Yeah.
or connected to the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. They're getting a much better education. Are you keeping track of their learning? Because, do you think they may or may want to go to university someday? And if so, are you trying to keep track of it? Maybe someday creating a transcript or something?
Yes and no. So I do track it in a very simple way. So we have a spreadsheet and I do track all the different museums and World Heritage sites and different things that we visit just by putting it in.
Okay.
So I've just got like sort of a tab for each country that we visit, and I just keep a really simple list of the different things that we do. And then the different tools, workshops, classes that they take, just very basically, just so that I can remember.
Yeah.
I'm not going to remember 3 years ago what we did if I don't do
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
But I don't create, a report card or a transcript. I don't give them grades. I don't report back to anybody. We are completely off the grid.
Right.
So we don't own a home. So although we would say Hawaii is our home base, we don't own a home there. That's just where we go back to if we need a rest from traveling. It's where we would associate our home community with, but we're not reporting into a system.
Right.
So that means we don't have to test.
Yeah.
We don't have to be worried about any of that. So the second half of it is, are they going to go to university? They can do what they want to when they're 18, but we have always from day one set the standard that they should want to go to university. They can make their own decision, but all of them, they have specific universities in mind. They have degrees in mind. We've talked about doing community college classes while they're high school age range, so that when they go into college when they're 18, they can just go straight into their junior and senior year. If that's something that feels good to us at the time, we've always talked about them getting master's degrees. So that is completely what we would want to have. And so my thought is I don't envision them ever going to a traditional school until they get to university level. I don't feel that they need it. They don't seem to want it. If that changes, then we can make that decision as we go. But for now, I don't see that happening at all. So when we get to the point where they're going to university, the plan is we can connect in with an umbrella school like West River Academy and get a transcript created if needed, or we can just apply to the university and say, here's where we've been. I speak 6 languages fluently. I've been to 79 countries. Here's a printed out list of all the World Heritage sites and museums and things I've done. Here's, the 300 videos I've created educating, kids around the world. And I'm guessing that pretty much any university is going to say, please come in. Here's a full ride scholarship. We want the diversity of what you bring to our community.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if you saw my interview with Jennifer Miller a week or 2 ago, but that's what happened to her kids who wanted to go to university. I mean, I don't know if they got scholarships, but they got in pretty easily wherever they wanted to go.
It makes so much sense, right? Because any university would be lucky to have a Worldschooling kid.
Yeah, I agree. And so what can we say to the newbie parents who are so afraid to pull their kids out of public or private school and Worldschooling? Like, what would you say to them? Because you've been doing it for a while and you've probably met other Worldschooling families. And I mean, don't you think that they're so much better off?
100%. There's no doubt in my mind. I have absolutely no regrets about pulling my kids out of school in the traditional sense, I would say it's totally possible. Definitely. I think that I would say to them, it doesn't have to look the way that you think it does or what you've experienced in the past. If people can let go of what they think of as education, even if my kids never looked at an iPad or read a book or, did a worksheet, if they just traveled, they would receive an incredible education because they would learn to read and they would learn math and they would learn history and science and technology. They would get those things simply by traveling. But then I add on top of trying to receive an incredible education. And that's not me. That's not just me. That's anyone. Right. Yeah. So, and then the other thing I would say is that parents can learn, if they can learn to trust their own ability to lead their family's education without having to have some educator with a degree in whatever, an experience in whatever, say, this is what your kids need to do. If they are able to trust their own instincts and experiences to say like, hey, my kids are really into art. What tools, resources, mentors, opportunities, apprenticeships can I put in front of my kid to nurture and grow that passion? And they can trust themselves to find those resources and put them in front of their child. Why do you need to be attached to a school system? Why do you have to report to someone, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so antiquated. Check to see if there's any questions in the chat. How has your family's Worldschooling journey or education travel journey benefited your life?
Well, in every way, I think we are so close as a family. We know each other so well. Of course, my kids fight. Of course, what family doesn't? Yes, sometimes they're disrespectful or whatever, but we work through all of that, and we're so close. We're together all day long, every single day. It goes all the way through. You've got to constantly be connecting with your kids, and what better way to do that than to live with them every single day, all day long.
Each other.
Yes, yeah, but we love traveling as a family. So there's the closeness, and then there's the freedom of being detached from social expectations, from family obligations. We don't have to go to all the things. And then, being able to go to any country in the world, to live and work wherever we want to be able to go like, hey, we're really not feeling this country, let's move on. There's so much freedom that comes with not having everything so scripted and so planned out, that you can feel more of what your body needs and what your heart needs. We aren't great with mornings. Nobody's moving in our house before 8:30 in the morning. I mean, we are dead to the world, but we love staying up late at night. And so that rhythm doesn't work attached to a school system at all.
Yeah.
And we go with what we need, and we can have that flexibility because we choose to world school. So, I mean, those are simple things, but there's a lot of benefit. I mean, we've already talked about the educational aspects, just so much
Incredible.
beauty
Yeah.
that comes from.
Well, what challenges come with this lifestyle for you guys?
There's a few, but nothing major. I don't feel like we lack as full-time travelers. I think there's so much community that we find with different people, but you do miss out on. There's been a few family weddings that we've missed, of cousins or nieces and nephews, that it would have been fun to go to, but it's okay. We connect in different ways. Aging parents, it's just something that you just can't. The reality is our parents are getting older, and they have their cancer scares or their, surgeries or whatever. And we're not there to just provide that care right around the block. We're on the other side of the planet. So we've either got to fly in, or we've got to organize community around them. So I feel like that's something, in our hearts, we're like, oh man, how much more time do we have left with our parents?
Yeah.
And so that's just truth. It's just a reality that we have. Other than that, I mean, everything else we can solve. So for example, one of my daughters needs braces. Okay, there's Invisalign. We can work that out.
That question comes up a lot. It is difficult to have braces while you're moving around, but you guys did Invisalign. That was your solution.
We haven't done it yet, but we plan to. Yes, we plan to.
Because I have met some people that have had braces put on in one country, and then other orthodontists will adjust, but they don't like to, or, I know American orthodontists don't like to do that.
And then there's things like, music recitals or dance recitals that if we were home, we would have our kids in music or sports or those kinds of competitions. We do miss out on those, but we improvise, right? Like I always have a Christmas concert for my kids. It's live on Zoom. Everyone in our life is invited. They all get on, and they have a repertoire. We design it together. We go back and forth. It's engaging with our community. And so they do perform. And then the community, their cousins, aunts, uncles, friends from all over the planet come on and are like, wow, that's an amazing piece. And we're all singing Christmas carols together.
That's so sweet.
You figure it out, you just make it work as you need to.
That's awesome. Jeff has a question. What mistakes have you made in the act of traveling? Visa problems, planes, rent, lodging, etc. I bet you don't have any.
Of course there are. As I said, we're figuring it out as we go along. We're not as organized as you are. We overstayed our daughter's visa by a long shot when we were in South Africa, just because when we applied to renew her temporary residence permit, the South African government, Home Affairs, is very, very slow. They didn't get it back to us. And at that time, they were requiring foreign citizens to go back to their country of origin to reapply for it. So if we left the country, we'd be out. And we had friends who were sometimes 8-10 months waiting, but we had in their home country to get their renewed visa to come back, and they had a whole life in South Africa. And here we're running a nonprofit there. We had a whole, an app that we founded, a whole community. We had staff of 20 plus people, and we couldn't just leave for 8 months to go fix our kids' visa.
Yeah.
So we allowed it to be overstayed,
Okay.
knowing that we were going to get a fine when we finally left the country. When
Okay.
we did leave the country, we got rid of everything. We moved back to San Diego. That at that time, they blacklisted her. My two kids and my husband are blacklisted from South Africa for 5 years. And next week we're going back for the first time in 5 years.
Been 5 years. Okay, good.
Yeah, so we'll see how they treat us when we go back. But yeah, so that was a mistake on our part.
Okay.
There might have been a way to handle that differently. And you know, sometimes when we fly in late, we get in somewhere late to in the middle of the night, and then we didn't rent a car. For example, in Paris, we arrived actually by a bus from London, and we got in really late, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and where the bus dropped us off was a dangerous part of town. And so here we are with like 4 little kids, tired. We're like dragging luggage through, couldn't find a taxi. And then we're walking through a park and people are like, you know, druggies and whatnot. And I'm just like, oh. So we've learned to be very careful about our arrival times and make sure that we have a really safe plan for when we arrive, you know. So those sorts of things have been tough. Obviously the pandemic, everyone has their story of what happened to them and where they were and how they sorted through those kinds of issues. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember during the pandemic, because I was, you know, we're Facebook friends, and you would post pictures of you guys at the Acropolis, and you were the only ones there.
Yes.
And you said Athens was totally empty except for, I can't believe that you were allowed to walk around.
I know, it was crazy. We were in Montenegro during the first lockdown, and we arrived on a Monday. By Friday, the whole country was closed down 100%. We couldn't leave for 4 months. We couldn't even leave our village, the tiny little beach town we were in.
Oh my gosh.
So it was crazy, but it was beautiful because we had an incredible time. We had a great place. And then we got the first plane out to Greece, and we just took off. And it was like, we were the first people in the country. I think literally the second day it was open.
Amazing.
So we had our place to ourselves.
Okay, we have like 6 people watching right now. So please ask Janelle your questions. She is here to help World School newbies and experienced people, because she's got so much great knowledge to share. So ask your questions. And Janelle, let's start talking about all the really cool, interesting projects that you and your family work on. So you have a TV show. Tell us about.
We have a couple. Yes. So we have 2 shows at the moment. Our first one is called Adventure Family Journal, and it's really focused on kids. So these are short educational films for kids. They are done by our family. Our kids are basically the travel journalists. They serve as sort of anchors for each episode. And we started that way back when we started full-time traveling. And now we have almost 75 episodes on our YouTube channel, Adventure Family Journal.
And later we will put them in the chat. Hopefully you can help me.
Okay, sure, of course. So in the course of producing those, we quickly found out that because they were created for kids, and kids, the age range that we were focused on are not on YouTube. I mean, I don't let my kids just look at whatever they want to on YouTube. We realized to get them to their audience, they needed to be on safe streaming platforms. And so, which is where kids are watching these kinds of things. And so we have a couple of different streaming partners through Epic, Kids Beat TV, and Sensical TV, which is Common Sense Media. So when we produce an episode, we take it to their producers. We say, would you like to license it? Most of the time they say yes. They license it for a year at a time or for a season or something. And then they pay us a fee to do that. And so now between those different platforms and our YouTube channel, our episodes are in front of 45 million kids every single day.
Gosh.
So the impact that our family travels have had through creating those videos, okay, they're well done. They're not like, hey, we're here, you know, we're fully producing. We travel with all the gear and the lights and the sound equipment. I mean, we're hardcore about this.
Wow.
So that little project has become a beautifully impactful opportunity for our family to share our travels and our story with kids who maybe aren't able to travel or haven't had a chance to come to these places yet.
Right.
So we have a lot of fun with that. And our new show is called Journey into Wild. And this is a brand new show that we've never done anything like before. And it's specific to this calendar year. So last year, we have a theme for our travels every year. Last year, it was iconic cities and the stories that changed history. And most of it was Europe and the Middle East. Obviously, the world is huge and we could do that forever.
Yeah.
But that was just the geographic region we were doing that theme in. This year, we've decided to go into nature. So go out of the cities, out of Europe, and really focus on biodiversity hotspots in the world. So the show is called Journey into Wild, and we're going to 12 countries, and the itinerary is crazy cool. And we're doing full 30-minute episodes, 12 different episodes, one in each country, and we're focusing on environmental issues, endangered animals, who are the change agents that are helping our world to get better, and what could we or should we be doing as a family, as a human within the world and the problems that we see. So from a very positive perspective, obviously we're facing some big challenges in the world, but yeah, so we're going to all these cool places: Morocco and Egypt, South Africa, Norway, Iceland, the Amazon in Brazil, Galapagos Islands, Costa Rica, Alaska, Hawaii, Australia, New Zealand. So each one of those are a different biome. And so everything from the Arctic tundra to the African savanna to the Nile River to, the Sahara Desert. And as we're going through, we're really pulling out this learning together. So the show is us as parents on screen, which we've never done before. I have a background in TV, so it's not that I haven't wanted to, it's just that our other show is focused on kids. So yeah, that's our new big project that we're working on, and we're just having a blast with it.
Amazing, amazing. And you have a Facebook group too about
we have a Facebook group called Educational Family Travel. It's a private Facebook group that's attached to our Adventure Family Journal Facebook page.
Awesome.
And then I lead a collaborative effort on Medium called Inspired to Learn. And this is really for families, mostly world schoolers or people who are looking at education differently. And that's 6 different authors from within the world schooling community. And we accept guest bloggers to post within that. And everyone's promoting their different projects, but really it's about educating families on how to think about education differently from a travel perspective mostly.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes. And I freelance write and do self-photography and other things that are not as cool as that.
Yeah, no, you're a busy mom. And your husband, is he still working in philanthropy?
Yes, he is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He has been working for a philanthropic consulting firm based in Colorado, and now he's doing his own consulting firm. So he advises people what are the best nonprofits for them to give their funding to. And then he also comes alongside nonprofits and helps them to position themselves differently, better, so that they can get more philanthropic gifts.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and it's great because you're able to do all these different things as a digital nomad family.
Yes.
And do you think your kids will become digital nomads?
I hope so. I mean, that's how they talk. I've got my one daughter who's artistic, the oldest one. She wants to be a concert violinist or play in a symphony orchestra. She wants to have a fine art gallery, and she can't quite figure out how to work that out with a traveling lifestyle. So she's working on that at the moment. My second one wants to be a geologist or archaeologist, something in the sciences. So she's trying to think about how that could work because she wants to have a family, but she wants to travel. So she's thinking maybe going more toward the jewelry making side, where she finds the gems and she supplies them to jewelers, but she has to travel. How can she combine this passion? My third one wants to be a chef. And so she's designing, all of us together are involved in the project of designing her incredible restaurant that's called Delish. And she's got it all figured out and what it's going to be. But the idea is that it showcases the different foods and flavors of the world in a really unique culinary experience. So she's already...
I know of 2 World School moms who have 20-something-year-old kids, and they are chefs. One in Vancouver and one in Sydney, Australia or something. And I think they were inspired, their cooking was inspired definitely by their traveling.
How can it not be, right? So we'll see. I think they will all continue to travel. It's hard to imagine not traveling at this point. We've been at it 4 years, and none of us are tired. None of us want to stop. We're absolutely loving our lives. So,
well, thank you so much for sharing with us. We have a quiet group tonight. Usually I get a little bit more questions, but hopefully people will ask questions when they watch the replay. And,
Sure.
and please, Janelle, come back to the group and put your links to your various TV shows and Facebook groups and your Medium thing. That would be really awesome. And yeah, it was so great to chat with you. Again, I really want you to adopt me. I'm just kidding.
Well, your kids are also super lucky. They are having an incredible life as you travel with them.
Yeah, I
So.
mean, we have a lot of fun too, but I'm a solo parent of two and I'm usually working full time. So it's like, I know you work a lot too, but it's like juggling it all. I just don't have I have like half the energy or a quarter of the energy that you have. So, but it's amazing. Your kids are really lucky.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, thank you for having me, Liz. It's
Thank
been
you.
so fun.
Hey, thanks for watching. This is Lizz Quain with Trailblazing Families. My twins and I have been traveling and world schooling for over 6 years, and I'm happy to share about our experiences. Make sure to check out the other videos on this channel. I do have a playlist of all the other interviews of other world schooling families and service providers. We're all happy to share our information and wisdom about how to best live this world schooling, digital nomad, and family travel lifestyle. If you're new to world schooling and need a bit of help, I do have a super comprehensive 12-week program on how to travel extensively as a family and how to world school, how to educate your kids. There's many different ways to do it. So reach out to me and schedule a no obligation Zoom meeting so we can have a quick chat and see if my program is a good fit for you. Thanks and happy trails.